welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Dr. Gene Dorio with my co-host, Barbara Cochran, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. We're talking with Dr. Thomas Polucki about, I guess, reefer madness was what had come out in the 1930s or so, the film about how bad cannabis is. And, with Prohibition, I mean, this was just flying all over the place. And, I guess we got wise with Prohibition and learned that, controlling it in a different way would be helpful. But we really never, came to that conclusion with cannabis. I mean, It's still, when you take a medication and put it into Schedule 1, which is that it's not redeemable, that it's not effective, that it's dangerous, that it's addicting, and you put it into that arena and that with that label on it, you're going to find that you can't do research on it. And the few people that have been allowed to do research on it, well, how good is that research? Get lots of people involved, find out all the effects, positive and negative, benefits and risks, costs and everything else, and let's go for it. But we're not doing that, are we?
Not yet. I believe that this is all going to go away quite soon. Because, again, you follow the money. Mm-hmm. Monsanto is involved in this. And as soon as they are attached to a project, it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So marijuana is green-lighted. It will be available, if not for recreational use, definitely for much wider application of medical use.
Oh, I see. I'm 150% in favor of the medical use for medical marijuana. I'm not in favor of the other, the what is it, the recreational. Yeah. I think that serves no purpose, in my opinion.
Well, for some of my patients, it is. That this is what they've done because in life they have the stresses that need to be calmed down. Because if it doesn't, it has other effects, cardiovascular effects, kidney effects, brain effects, all kinds of effects. So, I'm okay with people, but my problem, like you, Barb, when it's recreational. If you drink too much alcohol and you get pulled over, we got a breathalyzer. Yeah. When you use too much marijuana, we don't have a breathalyzer, and people do drive under the influence.
It'll be easy enough to develop that technology.
I think we need that.
That's very true.
Without sending it to a lab and 6 weeks later you get a result, we need to have a breathalyzer. And I've mentioned on this show before, anyone out there listening to this program, they developed that breathalyzer for cannabis, and it can quantitate it effectively. Then you can go off and retire with whatever you develop. So somebody out there think about that, because then recreational use of this medication, especially in one's home, I'm not going to have any problem with it.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, the only problem I have with it is if it's smoked. That is never going to be good. There's no safe way to inhale anything besides oxygen without causing some damage. So
that's right.
Because it's heated.
Yeah.
Right away. You've got one big effect.
Yeah. But it's like smoking cigarettes.
Well, that kills people.
Oh, it does. I used to smoke. Mm-hmm. I quit in 1974.
But what's the data for marijuana smoking and cancer?
Well, that was the study that they were trying to prove how much worse smoking marijuana, because you inhale more deeply, you hold it longer, how much worse smoking marijuana was than smoking tobacco. Mm-hmm. And that was the research study that was actually funded by the government. Mm-hmm. And they found the exact opposite, that smoking marijuana actually decreased the risk of lung cancer by 50%. So
it's amazing. Well, and when you said people smoking it, inhale it, and they keep it in their system mm-hmm. longer, and I think, isn't that mainly for more effect?
Yeah,
probably.
Okay, but also at the same time, it's in your lungs, and it has the healing effect.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I'm saying right now I am not an advocate of inhaling anything other than oxygen. I mean, we see how many problems there are. The biggest drop in cancer, this war on cancer that we're winning, The only statistic that has improved dramatically over the past 20 years, which is no coincidence, is lung cancer because of the anti-smoking campaigns, not done by the American Cancer Association, but forced on the tobacco industry by all the class action suits. So, the only change in cancer, real substantial change in cancer, was something that had nothing to do with the treatment of cancer. It had to do with the actual facts coming out that people should stop smoking. And there is a direct correlation of that information campaign. Wow, radical concept. Tell people what to do to stay away from getting sick in the first place instead of trying to treat the disease later, which all the research money goes into. That information campaign has been directly responsible for the biggest drop in cancer rates in all of history.
That's amazing.
Well, that's the way it is.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
can we change the subject slightly?
Yeah, go ahead.
You have some medication
Sure.
in front of us, and I'm interested in this Inflamove.
Inflamove. Yeah, so, all right. Oh, I didn't bring my readers. I'm in trouble. Okay, so the number one ingredient in it is standardized curcuminoids. All right, so what is that? That is the active ingredient in turmeric. And here's the interesting thing. So you've heard of COX-2, right? I know you have, but you've heard of COX-2? COX-2 inhibitors. That's the prescription anti-inflammatories out there.
Okay.
Things like Celebrex. I don't want to mention any names because I don't want to get in trouble, but the drug commercials that you see out there that are non-steroidal anti-inflammatories that you need a prescription to get, they're typically of a family that go after one fraction of the inflammatory response, and that's cyclooxygenase 2. It's one of the cytokines. It gets complicated, but pretty much there are nearly 20 different chemical pathways that contribute to inflammation in your body. One of them is called COX-2. Okay, follow me so far?
Yes.
Not too much, not too technical?
Yeah, I'm following you.
So a lot of the prescription drugs go after this particular pathway to inflammation, ignoring all the other pathways to inflammation, and in doing so, they do give pain relief. There's no question about that. But at the same time, they promote some of the much more dangerous forms of inflammation, the kinds of inflammation that lead to stroke and heart attack and even cancer.
That's frightening. It's interesting because several years ago, quite a few years ago, when I was going through this, I have psoriatic arthritis, and it was very painful. And I think I tried every single one of those pills that we were talking about, and I won't name any names. None of them worked for me. The only thing that did work was methotrexate.
Which has a known side effect of causing lymphoma.
Causing lymphoma, a possible side effect, and that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
And I don't take anything now, except I haven't seen this. I haven't seen this one in your office.
Okay, it's there. It's on the shelf.
Okay,
but you are taking the CBD, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I've also I take all of the other vitamins and things that you have in your office.
Would you take
You've
this?
got me hooked. I haven't taken
All right, so
this yet.
let me talk about this a little bit. So you're
Inflamove.
interested. I've got a customer. Hold on. So that's the main ingredient is the curcuminoids. And let me just.
I see in there's devil's claw. I mean, that's a little scary.
There you go.
Do you need my
angel's
glasses?
claw. Angel's claw, I could take that, but I'm not
Do you
sure
need
about
my
that.
I don't know.
glasses to see?
Let me say it might help.
They may help.
They may
I don't know.
help.
Of course,
I know
I'm
it's
blind
gonna look
now,
great.
but
And I wonder if I took this, if I could not use my glasses anymore. That would be a plus.
does that help?
All right. Yeah, sort of. If I get it right at the right range. Okay.
Well, they're
all right,
they're
let me just make a comment.
They're
about something.
trifocals.
So, you go to the health food store. You go to the grocery store, and you'll see things out there that are marketed You'll see commercials for this stuff. Oh no, those actually do help. I just
They
want
do?
to take it off for a
terrific,
second.
Terrific.
And then you go and you'll see things like, oh, it has turmeric, it has ginger in it, it has cat's claw or whatever. But it doesn't tell you anything about that. So, is it real medicine or not?
That's right. And it's mostly, what? What's that?
Yeah. So here's what you need to look for in a good product, because this is why this is on my shelf. So when it says that turmeric is the number one active ingredient in it, here's what it breaks it down to. Standardized to contain 95%, which totals 190 milligrams of curcuminoids, standardized curcuminoids. So that is saying that, okay, here's how much of the real active ingredient is in this formula. When you buy a product, you want that, because guess what? If that information isn't there on the label, that information isn't there in the formula. It's not the activated form. It's not, as far as I'm concerned, metabolically going to do anything. So that's one of the main differences. All right, so number 2 is ginger. And what is this? This is standardized to contain 5% gingerols, and on. White willow, which is salicylic. It's a relative of
Aspirin.
ASA, acetylsalicylic acid. So it's got some research behind it. Standardized to 15% salicin. Here's Boswellia, commonly known as, what is it, frankincense? Is Boswellia frankincense, or is it myrrh? It's frankincense. Boswellia is commonly referred to as frankincense, but it's the standardized 40% boswellic acids. Devil's Claw, your favorite. I know you're into this one. 5% iridoid glycides, I guess that's the active ingredient, and then a bunch of enzymes, and it tells you exactly what the enzymes are, at what strength, and all that good stuff. So that's the key to finding a good formula that has some potential of doing some good. It better lay it out in a great amount of detail of what you're doing, or that detail didn't go into the formulation, I guarantee it. If they're not going to advertise it, if they're not going to put it right out there on the label, what you're getting is probably a lot of filler and a lot of the cheapest grade materials that they can legally call the product.
But these are not related to what we were talking about.
There's no
earlier.
cannabinoids in
There's
this.
no cannabinoids
But there
in
is
this.
powerful anti-inflammatories that will stand up to prescription strength without any of the cardiovascular, cerebrovascular black box warnings, which
So-
is a real nice option.
Okay, so that
Or
can
GI trouble either.
That can be used for arthritis then.
It could be any form of inflammation.
Okay.
Because arthritis isn't inflammation isn't limited to just arthritis.
know it isn't.
Inflammation is the common denominator of every one of the top 5 killers. I think one of the most important screenings that everybody should get is an inflammatory panel. If you're going to get regular checkups, the number one thing you need to look at is the inflammation in your body, because that is the only thing that is common to all of the reasons that you're going to die.
Well, can that be found through blood tests?
Yeah, there is a blood panel for inflammation, and it's absolutely scientifically valid. It's all good. It's just that a lot of doctors don't see the correlation. I mean, it is, there's no debate about it. Every single one of the top 5 killers has an inflammatory component, but we're not really in the mode of thinking, okay, inflammation is common to all of the top 5 killers. Why don't we go after inflammation? Well, we have anti-inflammatories. Why don't we just give aspirin to everybody and call it a day? Because the aspirin doesn't address all of the factors of inflammation. It just addresses the one that we perceive as pain.
So we don't know, though, whether Inflamove would be specifically target a certain kind of inflammation. But when we're looking at our choices of knowing that we're in pain, that we've been offered by our medical doctor a prescription for high, heavy-duty doses of medication, hydrocodone, that can be addicting, that others can get a hold of from our medicine cabinet.
Potentially die.
This would be an option. But then again, we need to quantitate how well it does work. And, we look at the lab tests, and we can look at C-reactive protein, sedimentation rate, and things like that. But, does it enhance somebody's quality of life? Are they now able to move outside their home, in their garden, walk their dog or their cat, whatever activities they were used to before? Can they do that now? And that would be, it's hard to say, is there enough science behind it? But, we already know the science between the others. You can take it and you can risk getting lymphoma. You can take it and risk getting addiction. You can take it and possibly get
heart attack, stroke,
all
cancer,
the other kidney disease, and somebody getting into your medicine chest. But, looking at the other modalities that we might have for our patients here in Santa Clarita, this would be a better choice to at least look at it as an option. And I think their physicians and their caregivers and loved ones should be looking at this as an option as well.
I couldn't agree more. Here's the nice thing about it. If this only performs 50% as well, 50% as well, without any of the toxic side effects, without any the risk of developing an ulcer, shutting down your intestines, causing liver damage, causing kidney damage, which we know happens in every single one of the pain relievers that you can walk into any supermarket right now and buy without a prescription. We know this. Mm-hmm. All of those over-the-counter pain relievers that you can walk into the 7-Eleven and buy right at the counter have real serious side effects, sending 18,000 people every year to the emergency room, and 8,000 don't make it out alive.
That is frightening.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need a prescription for any of this stuff.
Oh.
Now, the other thing is, I noticed on the label that the number of pills that the capsules that you can take every day. But with my prescribing habits, because I take care of geriatric patients, and because they have different problems that are related to other bodily functions, I've always started them on a lower dose. And now, for the 34 years I've been practicing, I know that is within the realm of good practice of medicine.
Self-titration.
Right. And as a doctor, I would titrate them upward as opposed to, and the recommendation might be 3 times a day. Well, I would start them on once a day and work my way to twice a day, and sometimes break the pill in half and start that way. And with this, I see the dosing on it, and I still think that you can start at the lower dose and work your way up, as opposed to starting at the recommended.
I rarely tell people, just follow the label. Here's something, just follow the label. First thing I'm going to do is, if I don't know this already, we're going to get their weight. We're going to get as much information about the way they metabolize things as possible. And then we're going to make our recommendations. Because everybody has the idea that QID is across the board.
4 times a day.
Yeah, just never made any sense to me. What about that person's body weight? What about that person's metabolic rate? What about, are they a fast metabolizer? Or are they a slow Do they have something wrong with their liver? Are they going to be able to conjugate this stuff? Are they going to be able to detoxify? How are their kidneys? How are their intestines doing?
One size does not fit all.
Should we introduce this orally? Should we introduce this sublingually? Should we, what is the best way to get this person well? And none of that stuff is taken into consideration in conventional medicine, as far as I can tell. You are the first medical doctor I've ever heard that talks in terms of titrating a formula for a patient.
Yeah, I've been that way for years, and I'm not the only one. I mean, I know my colleagues do the same thing. So, and this is in our literature right now. That's been out there for years. So I'm happy, and I was educated well, and I was educated by people who did that because they realized what the side effects were. One of the doctors at UCLA, he had said, in terms of thyroid, for instance, it was give him this in the literature, and he said no. He said, you're going to titrate them upward. And that's what we did. And that is a part of the literature today and how we do it in medicine. So, I've learned, from my patients, the side effect profile and all of that, how to be a better physician in terms of my prescribing habits. And I look and see the big open area of how pain is managed in this country. And I say, there's a vacuum here. And this vacuum is causing a problem to where gateway drugs and addiction and deaths are playing a huge role even here in Santa Clarita.
Absolutely.
Well, that's pretty frightening,
It is.
We need to take a break. That's a scary thing.
A break too.
Yes. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. And we've been speaking with Dr. Thomas Polucki, the one
Indomitable.
I was going to say that, but I thought, no, I've already said that once.
All right.
The infamous.
Infamous.
There we are. Ooh, hoo, hoo.
And he's brought some samples to us, and we're going to break the seal here and just have a party after the show. But you're always afraid that people are going to, in our society, people are going to say, hey, these people are drug pushers. This is, our kids are going to get addicted. And
More so than any TV commercial, any radio commercial, any
those
magazine
unfortunate
commercial.
propagandized commercials that come and hit us every day, especially on the evening news. We're getting, and with the small print on the bottom and the fine words with flowery pictures,
imagery,
and they put that out there to make us believe that what they're telling us is the sole and only way that we can treat our health and especially our pain in our society. And that's wrong, and that's gets to be a huge challenge for us to be able to meet somewhere in the middle and have a worthy discussion, especially here in Santa Clarita, where people who are listening to the show and saying, these people are way off base.
Yeah.
But, there are others that are in the community that I think are going to be willing to say, okay, I hear what they're saying. I know our younger population is susceptible because of peer pressure and everything else, but maybe we should sit down and have this discussion. And maybe it should be a part of this radio station. And that's what I would hope, maybe they can bring this together for us within the city and this radio station.
Well, you know what? I think we ought to get a group of almost 80-year-old seniors together and all call us drug pushers. How would that go over?
I hear what you're saying.
Well, in my opinion, it was not a drug. I didn't call the CBD pills drugs. They're not. It was a pain reliever, and a very potent pain reliever that I didn't get hooked on.
Right. If it were a controlled substance, it wouldn't be legal for me to have it. It wouldn't be legal for me to use it with my patients. So it doesn't fit the category of a controlled substance, which by definition has to be dangerous. It has to be harmful. And you need a degree in medicine in order to decide, does the harm of this drug, is it outweighed by the potential benefit for the patient? And that's the job of the medical doctor, which they are now being held accountable for the first time that I can remember,
putting them in jail.
Where drugs are sending medical doctors to jail for murder. This is the first time you've ever seen this.
That's right. We have seen it. We have heard it, haven't we?
So now we're starting to maybe open the lines of discussion about, okay, what are our less toxic, what are our less dangerous options out there? And this is what I've been focusing on for the past 25 years, so I kind of have a leg up on the conventional medical doctor.
You do. And my experience with using it has really opened my eyes. Of course, I've always believed that it was good for you.
There are going to be some of our listeners who are saying, okay, I'm hearing what they're saying, but I need to move in a direction that's going to help me at this point with the problems that I'm having. And I'll tell you right now, there are not options for those listeners to go anywhere other than to give you a call to see if you possibly can get them on the right track.
I'd love that.
How do they get a hold of you?
753-9340.
And that's 661 area code.
Yeah, 661-753-9340. In most cases, my initial consultation is at no charge.
That's right.
And
That
I
is
know a
correct.
lot of doctors don't do that. It's $200 to walk through their door, but I don't do that. If I can't have a conversation with you and determine that you are a good candidate for working with me, I'm not going to charge you for that.
And we've had a great conversation, and I know Dr. Thomas Polucki for years. He is sincere in what he's doing. It will be what we do, and probably 5 years, maybe 10 years down the line, this is what's going to happen. So, we're going to move forward with this. We're going to have, those listeners who care, 753-9340.
Thank you.
Let's keep this conversation going. Thanks for being on the
Absolutely.
show today.
Thank you.
We are sponsored by Advanced Audiology and SCV in Home Care. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.